We are not wasting a Saturday night driving all the way across town for your little participation trophy. That's what my father said, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear, loud enough that the waitress stopped pouring coffee, loud enough that my younger brother, the golden child, actually laughed. I was in my dress blues, my Navy uniform, the one I earned after 6 years of service, 2 deployments, and a cybersecurity certification that only 3% of officers ever achieve. I had just called my parents to invite them to my promotion ceremony, a ceremony where I was being bumped up to lieutenant commander. And my dad, my own father, called it a participation trophy. I sat in my car for 20 minutes after that phone call. I didn't cry. I just stared at the steering wheel. Because honestly, I was used to it. I was the invisible daughter, the one who joined the military because nobody showed up to my high school graduation. But here's the thing about invisible people. We learn to watch. We learn to listen. And we learn exactly how to disappear. 3 weeks later, my mother called me crying so hard I could barely understand her. She kept saying my name over and over. Sarah, honey, we saw the paper. Why are there bodyguards? Why is your face on the front page? I didn't answer her right away. I just let her cry. Because 3 weeks ago, she sat at that dinner table and laughed at her daughter's service. And that moment, that phone call, was just the beginning of what I'm about to tell you.
To understand why this hit me so hard, you have to understand my family. I grew up in a nice suburb outside of Richmond, Virginia. White picket fence, 2 cars in the garage, the whole American dream package. But inside that house, I was a ghost. My older brother, Mark, he was the sun. My parents orbited around him. He failed college twice. And my parents still paid for a 3rd try. They called him passionate. They called him a late bloomer. Me, I got a full academic scholarship to a good school, and my mom said, well, I guess someone has to pay the bills someday. I graduated top of my class. They didn't come. I learned to celebrate my own victories alone. I'd buy myself a cupcake from the grocery store, light a single candle, and whisper, good job, in the mirror. When I enlisted in the Navy, my dad laughed. He said, You lasted 2 weeks at summer camp. How are you going to survive basic? I survived. I thrived. I found a family there. People who didn't care about my last name or my parents' approval. They cared if I could do the job. And I could. But that old wound, the one where your family is supposed to be proud of you, it never fully healed. It just scabbed over. And every time they ignored me, they picked at that scab. Beat. A sigh. The 6 years leading up to the promotion were brutal, for different reasons. I was working in a field I couldn't talk about. Cybersecurity. But not the kind you see on TV. The kind where you sit in a SCF, a secure room, with no windows, for 16 hours a day, trying to stop foreign actors from hacking our power grids. My parents thought I was a secretary. I swear to you. My mom once asked me if I typed letters for the admirals. I tried to explain it once. At a Thanksgiving dinner. I started talking about my team and the work we were doing. My dad cut me off and said, Sarah, nobody wants to hear about your computer job. Pass the gravy. Mark was there. He'd just quit another job because his boss didn't respect his vision. My parents passed him the gravy with a smile. That was the moment I stopped trying to explain my life to them. I decided that day I would go to my promotions alone. I would stand in the line by myself. And I would pretend it didn't hurt. Spoiler alert, it hurt. This promotion to lieutenant commander was different, though. It wasn't just a rank bump. It came with a specific assignment. A very specific assignment that I wasn't technically allowed to tell them about. 3 months before the ceremony, I started noticing changes. My boss, Commander Reyes, started treating me differently. Not badly, respectfully, but with a sort of gravity. One day, he pulled me into his office. Close the door. That never happens. Reynolds, he said. I need you to review your security clearance paperwork. Sir, it's up to date, I said. He looked at me. Not for what's coming. You're being vetted for a joint task force. Pentagon level. My stomach dropped. The Pentagon isn't just an office building. It's a nerve center. Getting a billet there means you are at the top of your field. I wanted to call my mom. I actually picked up the phone. I wanted to say, Mom, I think I'm going to the Pentagon. But I stopped. Because I knew what she'd say. The Pentagon? That's in Virginia, right? Is that near that nice mall? I put the phone down. I didn't tell them about the ceremony until 2 weeks before. I sent a text to the family group chat. A simple promotion ceremony, Saturday the 14th, 2 p.m. at the base. Would love to see you there. Mark replied with a gif of a clown honking a horn. My mom replied, We have your cousin's birthday party that day. Can you do it another time? You can't reschedule a military promotion ceremony. My dad replied an hour later. Just one word. Unfortunate. I remember reading that word on my phone screen in the dark. Unfortunate. Like my entire career was just an inconvenience to their schedule. I texted back. Okay, I understand. But I didn't understand. I don't think I ever will. This is where it gets ugly. The day before the ceremony, I did something stupid. I drove to my parents' house. I wanted to make one last appeal in person. I thought if they saw me in my uniform, saw the medals, maybe it would click. I walked in the back door like I always did. They were sitting at the kitchen table with Mark. They didn't hear me come in. My dad was saying, Well, we have to figure out what to do about Sarah's thing tomorrow. My mom sighed. It's so far. And the traffic is horrible on Saturdays. Mark shrugged. Just don't go. She's used to it. She's used to it. Those 3 words hit me harder than any deployment, any physical test, any sleepless night in the desert. I cleared my throat. They all turned. Hi, I said. My voice was shaky. My dad didn't even look guilty. Sarah, we were just talking about you. I heard, I said. You think I'm used to it. My mom stood up. Oh, honey, don't be dramatic. You know we love you. It's just, Mark has that job interview on Monday, and we need to help him prepare. Mark, the man who had failed 3 jobs in 2 years, needed help preparing for an interview for a job selling copier machines. I looked at my father. Dad, please. It's 2 hours of your life. I'm getting promoted. It's a big deal. My dad folded his arms. This is the moment I'll never forget. We are not wasting our time on your pathetic little promotion ceremony. He said it slowly, deliberately, like he was explaining math to a child. Mark needs us. You're a grown woman. Go play soldier with your friends. We have real family business here. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded. Okay, I said. Okay. I walked out. I got in my car, and I drove to the base. I sat in the parking lot of the barracks, and I watched the sunset. I thought about quitting. I thought about just turning in my papers and disappearing. But then I thought about the work, the SCF, the missions, the men and women who trusted me. I decided right there. I wasn't going to let their brokenness break me. But I also decided something else. Something colder. I decided I was done begging for scraps of love. The next morning, I got dressed alone. I pinned on my medals. I looked in the mirror. And I went to my ceremony. The ceremony was held in a large auditorium on base. There were maybe 200 people there. Families hugging. Kids running around. Spouses crying. I sat in the back row. Alone. When they called my name, I walked up to the stage. Commander Reyes handed me my new insignia. He shook my hand. Congratulations, Commander Reynolds. Thank you, sir, I said. I looked out into the audience. Every other officer had people standing up, taking photos, crying. My row was empty. I stood there for 10 seconds. 15. Just looking at the empty chairs. I thought about my dad's voice. Pathetic little promotion ceremony. I felt the heat behind my eyes. But I didn't let it fall. I held it in. I held it so tight it felt like my chest was cracking. After the ceremony, Commander Reyes pulled me aside. He noticed. No family today? He asked. They couldn't make it, sir. He looked at me for a long time. He's a good man. He knew. Well, he said, the Navy is your family now, and I'm proud of you. That almost broke me. The fact that a commanding officer, a man who had no blood relation to me, was prouder of me than my own father. I thanked him. I walked out to my car, and I sat there for an hour, just breathing. My phone started blowing up. Texts from Mark. Photos from my cousin's birthday party. A clown making balloon animals. My mom smiling. Caption. Wish you were here, Sarah. We miss you. They missed me. While they were at a party for a 5-year-old, I was getting promoted to one of the highest ranks in my field. And they missed me. I threw my phone in the glove compartment. I drove home. I didn't talk to them for 3 weeks. This is where the story changes. The Monday after the ceremony, I got the official orders. I was being assigned to the Pentagon. Not as a paper pusher. As a lead analyst for a joint cyber operations unit. I had to go through 2 more weeks of vetting. Background checks on my background checks. They interviewed my neighbors. They interviewed my high school teachers. They even interviewed my ex-boyfriend from college. Then one Friday afternoon, I got the call. Commander Reynolds, your clearance has been upgraded. Report to the Pentagon Monday morning. 0600, Delta entrance. When I arrived on Monday, everything was different. I had a new ID badge. A black one, not blue. I walked through doors that required palm scans. I sat in meetings where I wasn't allowed to take notes. I met people whose names I can't say out loud even now, years later. And here's the part my family never saw coming. Because of the nature of my work, because I was now briefing senior officials on active threat streams, I was assigned a security detail. Not because I was famous. Because I had a need to know secrets that other people wanted to steal. 2 agents. Armed. They met me at my car every morning. They stood outside my office door. They drove me home at night. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. But it was protocol. About a month into the job, there was a big interagency briefing. Someone from the press office asked if they could take photos for an internal newsletter. I said sure, whatever. They took a photo of me walking into the building. My badge visible. The armed guards flanking me. The Pentagon sign in the background. That photo ended up on the front page of a local newspaper's weekend edition. Not the Washington Post. Just a small regional paper that covered the Virginia suburbs. The one my parents read. The one my mother clips coupons from every Sunday. I didn't know about the article until my phone started ringing. It was a Sunday morning. I was at my apartment, drinking coffee, going over reports. My phone buzzed. My mom. I ignored it. It buzzed again. My dad. I ignored it. Then it buzzed 10 times in a row. Text messages. I finally picked it up. My mom had sent a photo of a newspaper. The front page. There I was. In my uniform. Walking into the Pentagon. 2 armed agents flanking me. The headline. Local officer leads Pentagon's cyber initiative. My mom had written, "Is this you? Is this really you?" Then my dad. A text that said, "Call us immediately." I didn't call. I let them sit with it. 20 minutes later, my mom called again. I answered. "Sarah?" "Oh my God, Sarah. We saw the paper. Why are there bodyguards? Why is your face on the front page?" Her voice was high. Excited. Proud? I couldn't tell. I took a sip of coffee. "Mom, slow down. Your father almost choked on his toast. We didn't know. Why didn't you tell us you work at the Pentagon?" "I tried, Mom. I tried to tell you at Thanksgiving. You told me to pass the gravy." Silence. "Well, we didn't know it was important," she whispered. There it was. The knife twisting. "It was always important, Mom. You just never asked." My dad grabbed the phone. "Sarah, this is your father. We need to have a family dinner. Tonight. We need to talk about this opportunity." Opportunity. That's what he called my career. An opportunity. Like it was a door that had just magically opened, rather than 6 years of blood, sweat, and loneliness. "I'm busy, Dad." "This isn't optional, Sarah. Your mother is upset. We need to see you." I agreed to dinner. Not for them. For me. I needed to see their faces, that I showed up to that dinner differently. Normally, I'd show up in jeans. Try to be small. Try not to take up space. Not this time. I showed up in my uniform. Medals on. Shoes shined. And I brought my detail. The two agents waited in the car outside, but I made sure my parents saw them. I parked right in front of the window. When I walked in, the energy in the room was electric. My mom had cooked a full meal. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, the good china. She never used the good china. My dad stood up when I walked in. Stood up. He never does that. Mark was there. He looked jealous. Confused. His eyes kept darting to my medals. Well, look at you, my dad said. The big shot. I didn't hug him. I just sat down. You look thin, my mom said. Are they feeding you at that place? They feed me fine, Mom. Dinner was awkward. They danced around the subject for 20 minutes, asking about traffic, about the weather. Finally, Mark blurted it out. So, the Pentagon, huh? You probably know a lot of important people. I know some, I said. Could you, I don't know, get me a job? He laughed, but it wasn't a joke. I looked at my dad. He nodded encouragingly. This was it. The moment I realized they didn't miss me. They missed what I could give them. Mark, you don't have a security clearance, I said. You failed a background check for a sales job last year because you lied about your college credits. His face turned red. My dad jumped in. Sarah, don't be difficult. We're family. Families help each other. Families show up to promotions, I said. The table went silent. My mom started crying. We didn't know it was a real promotion. You never told us. I told you. You called it a participation trophy. My dad slammed his hand on the table. That's enough. We're proud of you now. Isn't that enough? No, I said. It's not. My mom looked at me like I'd just slapped her. What do you mean it's not enough? I mean, I said slowly, that you ignored me for 34 years. And now that you see a photo with the Pentagon in the background, suddenly you want to have dinner. Mark pushed his plate away. You think you're better than us now because you wear a uniform? I don't think I'm better than you, Mark. I know I worked harder than you. My dad stood up. You will not speak to your brother that way in my house. Your house. I stood up too. You mean the house you can barely afford because you blew your retirement on Mark's failed business? Another silence. A deeper one. My dad's face went pale. How do you know about that? Because I have a security clearance, Dad. Do you know what they check when you get a clearance? Finances. They check your finances. And they check your family's finances. I know you're 2 months behind on the mortgage. I know Mom maxed out her credit cards. I know Mark has a gambling problem he's hiding from everyone. My mom gasped. Mark looked like he was going to be sick. I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest. A cruelty they had earned. I didn't bring this up to humiliate you, I said. I brought it up because you asked me for an opportunity. You want to know what my opportunity is? I'm being transferred overseas in 3 months. Germany. For 2 years. Germany, my mom whispered. That's so far. It is, I said. And I'm not taking my phone. What do you mean you're not taking your phone? I mean, I'm done being the daughter you remember when it's convenient. I'm done being the family backup plan. I'm done listening to you call my life's work a participation trophy. I looked at my father, the man who had dismissed me my whole life. Dad, you told me I was wasting my time. You told me I wasn't important. You told me to go play soldier. I pointed to the medals on my chest. I'm not playing, Dad. And I'm not invisible anymore. My dad didn't speak for a long time. He just stared at the table. My mom was sobbing quietly. Mark was looking at his hands. And then, for the first time in my life, my father's voice cracked. I was wrong. 2 words. 3 syllables. I was wrong about you, Sarah. He looked up. There were tears in his eyes. I had never, ever seen my father cry. Not at funerals. Not at anything. I spent your whole life treating you like you were invisible, he said. Because you were easy. You didn't complain. You didn't cause trouble. Mark needed me. You never seemed to need me. I needed you, I said. I just learned to stop asking. He nodded slowly. And somehow you still became extraordinary. That hit me. Right in the chest. I didn't forgive him. Not then. Forgiveness isn't a light switch. It's a process. But I stopped hating him in that moment. I felt something colder than hate. Pity. I'm not asking for your forgiveness tonight, he said. I'm telling you I see it now. I see you. I stood up. Thank you for dinner, Mom. I walked to the door. My mom ran after me. Are you really not going to call? I'll call when I'm ready, I said. But I'm not going to beg for your attention anymore. If you want to know me, you have to show up. Really show up. Not just when there's a photo in the paper. I walked out to the car. The two agents opened the doors for me. I didn't look back till I moved to Germany 3 months later. I didn't take my personal phone for the first 6 months. I used a military line for emergencies only. When I finally turned my phone back on, I had 47 messages from my mom, 11 from my dad, and 1 from Mark. Mark's message was short. He said, I'm going to meetings. Gambling. Dad told me to get help. I didn't know you knew about it. Thanks for not telling Mom about the worst of it. I didn't reply to any of them for another month. When I finally called my mom, she was different, quieter. She asked me about my day, not about my rank, not about the Pentagon. She asked if I was eating enough. It's not a perfect ending. We're not a Hallmark movie. There's still distance. There's still pain. But here's what I learned. The daughter they ignored didn't become extraordinary despite them. She became extraordinary for herself. And that's the only reason that matters, that I stopped waiting for my family to see my worth the moment I saw it myself. And if you're watching this, and you're the one sitting alone at your own ceremonies, if you're the one nobody showed up for, keep going. Because one day, the same people who ignored you will look up. And you won't be there. You'll be somewhere they can't even pronounce. With armed guards. And a black ID badge. And a life they can never touch. To the invisible ones. Keep going. Like and subscribe for more stories of karma, and just stick.